Hello and welcome everyone to episode 126 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, letterer of manga like Dragon Ball Super, Kaiju number 8, and, well, there's really only one thing that could tear me away from Marineford. I tell you what.
Yeah, today we're taking a look at One Piece Movie 9 Strong World. And if this were any other movie, if we were taking a break for Alabasta or the Chopper movie, or God forbid, the Zoro Sword movie, movie 5.
Yeah, we really just had a trio of...
we'd be in... oh boy, we'd be dying to get back to the chapters, but... And the movie makes a big point of this right off the bat. This was handled by Oda. The story is by Oda. Oda is backing this. He is much more involved than any other movie before. And you can feel it immediately.
Yeah. I think the thing is that, oh God, please, I would gladly take this correction if I am wrong. I believe it is the One Piece film, sort of like that nomenclature is sort of the... basically Oda is the executive producer of this movie, and so there are more, the next few all have the One Piece film kind of title.
Oh, okay, yeah, I did notice that it is One Piece film and not just One Piece Strong Worlds. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think Stampede, which released in 2019, is the only movie that does not have that. But it also is also still somewhat, maybe less so than some of the other ones, the ones actually called One Piece film. These are these are the big boys. These are the really kind of I feel like we've entered a new era.
For sure,
as it were.
Yeah, it is absolutely the case, and they definitely, I mean, they took their time more so than before, because the last movie was released March of 2008. This one was released December of 2009. So it actually, rather than a year of production, it got a year and a half, essentially.
That's actually nuts to me, because the production values are actually ridiculous.
Oh my God. I have not seen animation this smooth since Baron Matsuri. It is ridiculous. And just to get the stats out of the way first, since we like to go over this. So, yes, this was released in Japanese theaters on December 12th, 2009, big holiday movie. This happened between chapters 566 and 567. So, right in the middle of it, basically right after Luffy had that beat down from all the admirals and whatnot after the big confrontation with the mast. Episode-wise, was between episodes 429 and 430, which is right after they have a movie prologue special, which we did talk about looking at, but upon just reading a quick summary, it seems like it has very little to do with the movie, so we decided to skip it.
Oh, get used to that, by the way.
Just a prologue.
Yeah, most of the other movies going forward all have kind of prequel tie-in arcs in the anime. I remember specifically watching the one for the next movie, the prequel arc for that, and it was horrible.
Oh no, it's this doesn't really need a prequel arc, so I'm confused by that.
But that also I feel goes to show this movie is a big deal, and it has so much more in the kind of gross investor word way, franchise cohesion, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, these movies are events now.
It feels like a One Piece movie. It's like, and it's something we've discussed between all of the 8 previous movies about what they really mean. As far as the anime, this is also right before Jinbei is revealed as Ace's cellmate in Impel Down. Actually, I made a mistake. This is not movie 9. This is movie number 10.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I screwed that up. I apologize for that. I forgot to change the movie number on my notes, but that happens sometimes.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's still Strong World. That's all. That's the part that matters. Obviously, big production, big to do. Oda talked about it a ton in the lead up.
Yeah, we got several references, both in the SBS and the manga itself to this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And it's honestly brilliant in the way that it's structured from the beginning, because you get the immediate threat. Here's Garp, here's Sengoku. For manga readers, like, we're familiar with these, very much familiar with these two at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
This Shiki the Golden Lion is using some sort of power to wreak havoc at Marineford, turning over a bunch of ships, sending them crashing down into the harbor, causing chaos, and basically declaring it a warning. And then we just smack dab in media res, Luffy on some random island running from all these crazy monsters, these crazy animals that just keep attacking each other.
This has maybe my favorite opening to any of the One Piece movies we've seen so far. Like it has you asking so many questions right from the jump.
It does, because the thing is, and obviously if you've seen the posters and whatnot, but if you were to go into this completely blind and not realize any of this other stuff, especially because both the manga and the anime at this point had Luffy separated from the crew separated, and you start off with just Luffy.
You would think that, yeah. So you would think that it takes place during this time. I hadn't considered that angle. That's actually kind of brilliant.
Yeah, and it's just Luffy for quite a bit as we see all these crazy animals. God, I love the Oda animal designs. Just how weird they get.
It immediately stuck out to me that, like, again, talking about like this movie being kind of an event with a big production, big budget behind it, like there's so many original designs and original ideas in this movie, and like this opening scene with Luffy, you're just like bam, 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 like one after another, just like all these weird freaky animals like trying to one up each other.
Until Luffy shows off that he's strongest of all with his gear third and wipes out the hugging bear.
I had remarked on this with like that opening scene with Shiki of just like the lighting and stuff and just like the animation. You're just like immediately like, oh, this is really, it's got something behind it. And then seeing that first action scene with Luffy is just, it's just gorgeous, honestly. Like if you're a One Piece anime viewer, like you hadn't seen anything like it. Again, you know, I love the animation style in movie 6 and Baron Matsuri, but like, you know, it's very weird and off kilter, but like this is the One Piece anime style at like the highest level of polish we've ever seen.
Oh, by far. It is so freaking gorgeous at all points. And there are like, skipping ahead a little bit, there's the first confrontation with Shiki, where they're obviously using 3D for those ground effects about how he's lifting up the earth and twisting it around and capturing all the Straw Hats. When I was looking at that, it's like, it's obviously 3D, but it also had a claymation quality to it, which works really well for the earth.
In some regards, I might think that this has better CG than some of the later movies.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's, you know, as good as these modern movies look, you know, that can be a little bit of a sore spot sometimes. But like, I feel like it was often used kind of as a means to an end, where it kind of gives things like Shiki's abilities. It kind of gives them this kind of otherworldly effect, like it kind of like off-putting, not in like a janky way, but in kind of like okay, this is clearly designed to look like something kind of different and foreboding and overwhelming. And so from that perspective, I was like, it was really smartly used. We've come a long way from those like weird CGI JPEGs from like movie 5.
yeah, we have. It's nice. I guess to give just a quick breakdown on the movie, but it is available on Netflix, so it's very easy to watch once again.
Yes.
So, and I highly recommend checking out just right off the bat. Basically, we have Shiki introduced, threatening the world, and then we move over to the Straw Hats, and the Straw Hats are all in this strange set of floating islands, all separated. Get some more crazy monsters. Probably one of my favorite moments is all the little ants chasing Frankie around.
Yes, the ant scene's really cool.
Yeah. It's also a great showcase. I feel like even though Brook doesn't get to do much, I feel like it helps with his cohesion into the crew that we didn't really get before their separation.
Yes, absolutely.
It really does help with that. But yeah, that scene of all the ants chasing after those three, and then he freaks out and stops and they just ignore him. And then there's this crazy shark that's jumping out of the water trying to eat Robin and Frankie, and all of a sudden here comes the ants that jump out and basically piranha this thing and eat every piece of meat off its bones before the skeleton just falls into the water. It is a cool scene.
And then it's all building up to the reveal that they skipped past Brooke because he doesn't have any meat on his bones, and he attacks them because he gets offended. He's just like, "How dare you!"
And we get to see like really cool technique of him going by, slashing the hum, and then all the ants are defeated. It's a nice showcase of how strong Brooke is, which we didn't.
This movie actually loves Brooke, I think.
I think so.
They really do.
It's done quite a bit with him because Brooke didn't get a chance to really show off. It felt like he got a few moments here and there that was cool, but then he'd get brushed off really quickly.
Yeah. It really, you can see how naturally this whole movie slots in between Thriller Bark and Sabaody.
Yes.
Because it really is just like, all right, like this could be, just like another little goofy thing that happens in between there. And so it's nice that we are kind of getting this like tight little story that just like, hey, this is just another One Piece story with the Straw Hats and Brooke is here.
Yeah. And this is just an adventure they had before. Like Didn't we have like a whole like montage of them encountering crazy things from the Grand Line as they were making their way towards Sabaody?
Yeah. You get the sense that a little bit of time passed.
Yeah. So this could easily slot in, which is nice. Yeah. It's you don't get that with movies, the shonen movies, too often, for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like in that goes to the sort of the sentiment of like, even though this movie is not canon, it is as close as possible.
The thing is, though, and when we finally see Nami, who's completely separate from the crew and just able to go for a swim, and boy, this movie loves Nami's butt. This movie loves her butt.
There's a lot of it's not as obnoxious as movie 7. Maybe just because I don't like that movie.
I'd say the most egregious shot was when she was changing clothes and you just see her pull up her pants.
Yeah,
like,
that
all
one's
cheek.
Just like, okay, guys. Yeah, but
at least the swimming serves a purpose, as we later find out.
Yeah, certainly. I love that. Like again, we're kind of introduced that. Oh, all of the Straw Hats got separated somehow. We don't even see. I don't think. Like it's just Luffy and then Brooke, Frankie and Robin, and then Nami. So we don't. There's still quite a few, I think, that we don't know until a little bit later.
Yeah, and it's not until after it's shown that Shiki has captured Nami that we get a flashback to what happened. And I do like this. Like, apparently they're just trying to be a comedy trio with Shiki, Dr. Indigo, and whatever the gorilla was called.
Did he have a name?
I don't know if he had a name at all.
I think he might have just been literally a gorilla.
He might have been. I don't know. I'm okay. I got it. Scarlet.
Okay.
I went to a cast list and I was like, okay, I don't recognize Scarlet, and yeah, it's the name is Scarlet.
All right.
Sure. But yeah, they just have this whole comedy aspect to them. But we also see Shiki and how there was an explanation of how he escaped Impel Down. He cut off both of his legs. When he introduces himself, he has 2 swords for legs.
Yeah, I think that they mentioned that in the manga, did they not? That he cut off his own legs and that's how he escaped?
I forget if they specifically mentioned
that. I don't remember.
I think he might have just escaped, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Either way, like it's the introduction to Shiki proper is really fun because you got like it's fascinating because you have like him and Dr. Indigo are kind of like trading places constantly as like the funny man and the straight man. And Dr. Indigo, he's dressed like a literal, he's like a clown mime. And the whole bit with him is that one, like his shoes have this awful farting noise every time he walks. But also he mimes, like he tries to be a mime, but then he just talks anyway. And Shiki's like, "What? You can talk."
and then also how these, like, he'll look at Scarlet and Shiki will look at Scarlet's like, "I thought you were my grandma," or something weird.
Right? Like that. Yeah. So it's got that kind of that classic One Piece humor. I think it's fun and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like it's snappy in kind of the right way.
It works in that it never seems to take away Shiki's threat level. Like he's goofy, but he's still like feels like a threat, and that's a fine line that past movies have struggled with. That being said, I never felt the threat from either Scarlet or Dr. Indigo.
Oh no, they're just there. Like they're just there. I think it's very potent that like their eventual fights in this movie are like pretty. Yeah, you don't need to see them that much.
No.
They're kind of over and done with
for sure. But yeah, we get the reveal. We get the flashback about a week before. They were reading the news, and East Blue has been under attack. Just crazy things happening, different islands being destroyed, and they're just like, what should we do? And Luffy decides, like, we're going to go back to East Blue and protect it. We can always restart the adventure, which is...
That actually stood out to me. I thought that was crazy. I was like, who is this man, and what did you do with Luffy?
I guess it shows Luffy's, like, thought process. He's not only thinking for his own island, but his crew. He knows how much Nami... loves her village, and of course how much Usopp cares about his village. Zoro to a degree, but I think it's those two that really stand out. And I think it's interesting to see that aspect where he's willing, like, he's not in a rush to get there. He's enjoying the adventure, and he can just restart and take a different route.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's one of those things that, like, it stood out to me as odd, not in like a bad way, but just like, that's not really it's not the reaction I was expecting. But it is interesting, especially considering, you know, where we're at in the manga, where, like, Luffy kind of has to make this choice of, like, okay, do I, like, recapture, like not recapture, do I get my crew back together and continue the adventure, or do I stop and go save my brother? And of course, you know, he chooses to save Ace. And so maybe from that perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, he does kind of value not only his own hometown, but also the hometowns of his friends in this case. It's just one of those things that I was really a little bit shocked by.
Yeah, for sure. That's when, as they're discussing all this, that's when Shiki's crazy ship flies by. It catches them all off guard, because it's just like a ship embedded into a piece of rock that looks like an island. It's a pretty cool design, honestly. And Nami's like, "Oh crap, we're heading towards a typhoon. We gotta turn." And they, thanks to all of the cameras on Shiki's ship, because he's kind of technologically advanced in a lot of ways, putting that technology we've seen in Impel Down to use apparently. And basically, he's able to learn thanks to a tone dial through them, which makes sense that he's been to the Sky Islands considering what he can do.
Right, he can fly.
And Nami gives him a warning, is like, we need to turn 90 degrees to avoid this incoming typhoon. And the navigators on his ship is like, there's no sign of any type of storm system coming. And of course the storm system comes, they're able to escape, and he's immediately impressed and goes down to say hi, where we get introduced to his float fruit and a demonstration of his abilities. He can't make people float, just objects and himself. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, basically like, hey, come with me, come to my, I'll help take you to East Blue, because you get that whole,
which is, that is interesting foreshadowing. I was actually really impressed by that. I was like, oh, like that it all kind of comes back around.
It does.
You're like, why was he going to the East Blue? Like, what? It's like, okay, sure, why not?
They finally make it to the floating islands, and that's when he dumps them. He grabs Nami,
basically
dumps the rest, constantly insists on calling her baby cakes.
And so this begins sort of, when I originally watched this movie, was sort of my main gripe with it, is that, like, the whole idea of, like, the setup feels really similar to Arlong. That always irked me more. I guess to the point, like, I had always liked this movie, but maybe not to the degree that other people had. Like, the idea of, like, oh, it's another villain who really values Nami for her navigational skills. Just, like, we couldn't kind of come up with a more interesting setup than that. I don't feel as strongly watching this movie again, because there's so many cool, interesting character bits about Nami that I feel like this setup enables, but kind of having the crux be like, okay, like, we have to save Nami because some guy wants to put her on his crew so that she can be a navigator. It's like, okay, all right.
And I appreciate it being a Nami movie. She's not really,
she's the main character.
Yeah,
I would argue.
Absolutely the main character of all this. It is her motivations that set things off, and she gets a lot of screen time and a lot of, like, she never gets a fight, but she does so much in this. And it's not just it's eye candy the entire time.
I think it's smart too that, like, maybe of all of, like, the crew members from the East Blue, I feel like we have the strongest connection to Tanami, since we spend, I guess it's about as long as Baratier, but like I feel like in terms of like emotional investment, like you see all the things that Nami went through for Kokoyashi Village, so it kind of makes sense that like she's the one who has the most motivation to protect the East Blue.
Yeah, absolutely. And eventually all the others find the one village in this place that are protected by these plants called Daft Green. However, they're enough to keep the animals away, but if you get too exposed to them, you'll start getting this strange sickness that can be cured thanks to a plant called the IQ. However, Shiki has hoarded all these plants in order to evolve the animals on this island, which is why they're so aggressive. They weren't like this before, but because of Shiki's experimentations and forced evolutions of all the animals to make them as crazy as we've seen, nobody else has the plant in order to cure this poison.
This starts to get into the things I actually really, really love about this movie, because you start to feel that there's kind of more of a bigger message, kind of about like, it's almost like environmental in a way of like kind of maintaining the balance, right? And now we have this element in Shiki who is like disrupting the balance for obviously like evil reasons, and that he's just the title of the movie Strong World makes a lot more sense when you're just like, okay, this is a pirate who basically his entire worldview is might makes right, and his entire motivation is basically like a show of force. So, and it is we're kind of seeing the consequences. We see what the consequences of like Shiki disrupting kind of the natural balance of things, how that affects normal people in their daily lives. As somebody who, is caught up on the manga, the idea that like Shiki has this might makes right worldview makes a lot of sense, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, this worldview and this sort of like how this character kind of came to see the world this way, like you can kind of extrapolate like that. Okay, yeah, you can draw the line from where things started to how he got here, in a way that I think is really cool. That not, we had Shiki mentioned, in Impel Down, but that is not the last time we'll see him. He is a canon character in the manga for sure, and I feel like in subtle ways this movie actually reinforces that, and it feels like kind of the greater elements of play of how he operates his pirate crew, the way that it's very much, kind of like Yakuza and like mafia movie inspired. Like those elements come into play in the manga in really interesting ways much later down the line.
So that's fascinating. I'm so curious how that's all going to turn out, because I honestly had no idea. I mean, I thought it was just one of those offhand things for Shiki. Not that he'd have, I don't think he has a major role. I doubt that, but still that he still informs that it's a character that sort of helps flesh out the world of One Piece even further.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you learn kind of what Shiki's relationship to other characters are like, what we see in the movie is like, okay, yep, got it.
Right.
Makes sense.
The other thing I really liked about this, Nami escapes herself. Like she
yeah, absolutely.
Like she saves herself, and we also get the introduction of the best character in the movie, Billy.
Yeah, Billy.
Billy is he's great. Just get this weird bird, this duck bird. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Karu.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. He's like Karu with electric powers. But also, of course, his name is a pun because in Japanese, bidi bidi means like a tingly electric feeling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The subtitle said it was because of his bill, but
yeah, which I mean it's a good way to
localize it.
Good way to without having to explain the joke. It comes across.
But yeah, thanks to Billy and not Robin, but Nami discovering the sort of opening through the pool, she's able to escape and get out and meets up with Luffy, finds the Thousand Sunny.
One thing I really appreciate is how kind of casually like the crew gets back together relatively fast, like kind of like by halfway through the movie. Everybody is more or less back together, and they're all, I guess, when you see the opening hook to this movie, you think like, okay, we have to save Nami, who's, like the villains got Nami and the crew separated. So you think that those are kind of the goals, but there are a lot of like swerves to get there.
Yeah. It's also fascinating to me that the crew is kind of separated into Chopper and before, and then Robin and after, because for the longest time, Frankie, Robin, and Brooke are not with the main crew. Like they're
they're separated Yeah, they're the last to come back.
Yeah. Like all the rest have met up and are getting sort of the breakdown, while the other three are learning about the other side of Shiki's plans, where he's bringing in all these pirates for some sort of grand design. And I like how they're slowly revealing what his plans are, what he's all about.
Yeah, in that way, the way that this movie kind of doles out information to you, again, it feels like a proper manga arc in a lot of ways. Like where you're just like, okay, we have various factions of the Straw Hats all kind of like learning parts of the setup piece by piece.
And it feels natural in that way. But of course, Shiki wants Nami back. And so he attacks the lone village in order to get her back, because he has transponder snails all over the place, keeping tabs on everybody, because he's stolen all the men and women to work for him as on this grand plan that he's had. And of course, immediately spots that she's there. But these people have been under Shiki's thumb for 20 years, and so this family that Zoro and Chopper rescued, they're basically like, oh, thank God, he's finally leaving and going to this East Blue, which
which is really interesting. Yeah, that's just like, oh, like they again, just the I love it's not a. The villagers ultimately aren't like a big part of this movie, but I really like that we kind of see sort of like the everyday life perspective. Like, yeah, of course, they hate Shiki. They hate that he's here and has ruined their lives. So of course, it's like, okay, God, he's finally going to go
be somebody else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which like there's a little bit of like togetherness almost of like the idea of there being kind of like multiple perspectives here. Like, yeah, if you were in this situation, you would kind of worry more about yourself and your own family as opposed, to kind of like the consequences of like, oh, these other people, they'll deal with it. Like, let them deal with it.
And you can see why they would be like that. Absolutely. Especially having to deal with all this. But, this is also when it's revealed that Shiki has a bit of a sadist streak to him, because he's like, we'll release one of the men and make it seem like they're all going to be coming back. But then we're going to destroy the villages so we can see how much they're devastated by it.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel like we learn more and more about this throughout the movie. But like Shiki is a stone cold pirate. Like you cannot take him at his word.
No,
it takes a few times for Nami to kind of be like, yeah, no, you can't.
I don't think it takes her that long, but
it's really just once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Shiki attacks the village, and there's a fantastic shot of Nami leaving after she heard them talking about Shiki going after the East Blue, where you see the 5 other Straw Hats standing in front. Shiki looms overhead. It's like, oh, crap.
Yeah, again, it's like halfway through the movie, and we're having like our first encounter with the main villain.
And it feels funny because, again, he was a rival of Roger. And it's like, that's not good. But there's more I want to say about that later. But basically, they fight and it does not go well.
Naturally, they all get trounced.
Yeah, they get a few hits in that surprise him, but he's able to basically use this awesome looking technique that transforms the land into a bunch of lions and just basically crushes and compounds them, twists them up, and just captures them all like in one big swoop. It's really impressive.
I love too that like upon seeing the crew get defeated, like we're now like Nami's kind of left with this choice of like, okay, like she basically has to join Shiki's crew because she's trying to save both her crew and the East Blue. She's kind of like presented with this difficult choice, and I like that it's Usopp of all people who's kind of like still conscious. I feel like Usopp is the one who's the most on Nami's wavelength as like the scaredy trio.
Yeah, and he even says like, you will disappoint Luffy. You know what he's like. He will be so upset by this. How could you do this to him? It's something he well knows at this point. It has that layer to it, but she goes through it, leaves a tone dial message to everyone, and heads off. And that's when, of course, Robin, Frankie, and Brooke come in, able to rescue the others and basically tell them, like, yeah, he's getting ready to invade, basically, and he's going to be doing this demonstration because that's
you're seeing this like just tons and tons of pirates in like mafia like suit and tie, like he is just kind of like gathering. It's funny that this is happening while we're reading Marine Forward, like. Shiki is going to declare war on the East Blue. That is what is happening here.
Yeah, he wants to destroy the East Blue in order to make the world government to surrender to him. It's like, I just took out an entire ocean with these animals that I have and my whole set of pirates. What chance do you stand against me? it's really comes down to that. And Nami is just into her cool. She basically reverts right back into the Arlong mode where she's acting nonchalant about here's this destruction of the village because of all the animals I've unleashed because we've uprooted the trees. Do you care? No, I'm going back to my room. And he just leaves. And it's just like, Of course, Luffy and them are like, all right, we got to go rescue Nami. And they hear the sound, her message. And Luffy's pissed. Like, Luffy is upset. Because at first he's like, okay, affable about it. But then they find the tone dial and he hears it. It's like, oh, then no. How could she say this? I'm so upset at her. And that, like
right. She's just like, you guys are no match for, I was about to say Arlong. Shiki. You guys are no match for Shiki. Of course, crucially, which I loved how this came back. But, like, Luffy basically, like, runs off in a huff before he hears the end of the message.
Yeah. And I think that's so great that he didn't even hear the entire message, but they still decide to go rescue her.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like
in the coolest friggin' way they could have. Like, this is like the most boss the Straw Hats have ever looked.
It's very, I mean, God, the whole setup for the scene where it's like Shiki's basically preparing his invasion and he's doing the whole, like, the very, very Yakuza thing of, like, we're gonna all drink from, like, the cups of brotherhood, basically, which is, again, funny that comes up here. We saw a tease of that in the manga just recently, just like a quick little panel, again, talking about how Shiki operates and how that is informed by his past, like, and seeing the elements of drinking from the glass, to become blood brothers, like that's all stuff that'll come up again.
I'm so curious about that, but yeah, the Straw Hats come in just all wearing suits because it's supposed to be formal. That Robin and them learned about it. By the way, special shout out to Robin's previous outfit of with the glasses and whatnot. I was like, that's
the glasses, the ponytail. Yeah, I'm so weak.
That's a good fit.
Top 5 Robin fits. Frankly, it's one of my favorites. I can't handle it.
Unfortunately, I'd say her and probably she actually gets the least to do of the entire crew.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a bit unfortunate, but it is Nami's movie, so I'm not going to let it go, like, harp on it too much or anything like that. We have 9 characters. It's hard to make all of them stand out.
Yeah, for sure.
in a 2-hour movie.
As a quick aside, because I don't know where else to put this, I really love Usopp in this movie. He steps up without leaning too hard into, like, the scaredy cat gags. Like, it feels like he's just there, like, to kind of, like, really come into, like, the support role, right? Yeah. So it doesn't feel he doesn't feel out of his depth or like, oh God, what am I gonna do? Like he feels confident, and I love that.
Yeah, he is just right there with everyone, backing them up. He is, as you said, support, and it's great to see. It is fantastic. But then you just get this amazing scene of all of them coming in, and they're all equipped with guns.
This scene might be the most un-Straw Hat thing I think I've ever seen them do.
I know, right?
It's awesome, so I'm kind of down for it.
Frankie hooks them all up with guns. They reveal all these people, and they just unload. They just blast everybody, and it's like, what the heck? But it's cool.
That is when this has truly become a mafia movie.
It felt like a Yakuza showdown. It really did.
Yeah. Oh, also important to point out, they get there into Shiki's, like, castle by Kude bursting the Sunny just, like, straight into the island.
It's friggin'
so
great.
Cool.
The Sunny is built to last, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the rest of the movie is basically, well, the other thing that was revealed before the invasion was that Nami had run off to the circle of the trees protecting Shiki's hideout from the animals. And she was going to blow
it the heck up.
Yeah, blow it with a bunch of dynamite because she knew she couldn't trust him. She understood that.
And to the point that, like, she was going to let herself get exposed to the Daft Green.
Well, that's the thing. She didn't know about the Daft Green.
Oh, right.
That's what stopped her. She was all set to go, but they found her, and she was already infected by the Daft Green, which puts a ticking clock on everything because now they got to get the antidote and save her. So that gives a nice little thing for Chopper and Usopp to do, is just sort of protect Nami while Nami goes ham on all these things because she's like, I'm just gonna blow I'm dying. I'm Billy, set off these fuses. Let's blow up these trees, and yeah, all the animals invade. Like she's still okay, thankfully. But all the animals start invading, and it's just pure chaos in the mansion. And a lot of it's wrought by Nami.
Yeah, which, again, just I think this movie strikes the right balance of having... Like, of course, obviously, we know this is the audience. Like Nami's not a damsel. She's not that kind of character. But also having the framing really, like, letting her be, like, play such an active role. And, you know, kind of on... Even though you know that she's not going to betray the Straw Hats. But, like, on the surface, you know, like, she's always kind of one step ahead. She's always, like, thinking about the next step. And, like, they're just... I love, like, she feels perfectly in character during like those sequences.
And it's thanks to Billy that Usopp and Chopper find her. And basically it's just we get a set of fights, quick fights with Zoro versus Dr. Indigo. Indigo has a bunch of juggling techniques, but Zoro just uses his Asura, beats him, no issue.
Yeah. I like that. What was that? Like that line that Zoro said when he beat Indigo. I can't remember, but it was something along the lines of like, well, you guys are trying to, like, invade the East Blue. I'm from the East Blue, so that means you're mid.
Right. He's basically
saying, you're losing to me.
You're from the East Blue, the weakest of the seas. You're nothing. It's like, well, if you're beaten by me, you're less than nothing, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I got him.
And Robin gets kidnapped by Scarlet because she was fighting a moth that put off a bunch of poisons that ended up affecting her and weakening her a bit, enough for Scarlet, who is quite taken, to kidnap her and pull a King Kong, take her to the highest point.
Which Sanji's not having that, of course.
Oh no! And God, they go ham on Sanji in his animation about how he just runs through things and his crazy faces that he makes trying to go rescue her. And I do enjoy that because it's a quick fight. Obviously he uses the Diable Jambe and quickly defeats Scarlet. But the great thing is that Brooke is the one who rescue Robin from falling.
Yep.
And he's like, you took the best part. Because she's like thanking Brooke for saving her.
Yeah. It's just, again, the interactions are so on point.
Yeah, it is really great. And all the while, of course, it's Luffy versus Shiki, and because of Shiki's ability to fly, Luffy has to work with Billy in order to match him while using Gear 2. And it's pretty sweet have this aerial battle that you do not see in One Piece that often.
Yeah, God, seeing Gear 2 at this level of animation, like, this might be one of my favorite depictions of Gear 2. Just the speed and, like, the polish of the animation is just wonderful.
Oh, it's so cool. And it's Luffy's obviously having trouble fighting him, but he's able to recover despite... honestly, it was strange to me that Shiki had him in the water, could have just left him be, but then he decided, I'm going to cut you again.
Yeah, okay, sure. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a little... You got to go with it a little bit, but fortunately, Nami is able to notice some interesting patterns in the weather and has an idea, and they force one of the navigators to tell Shiki to steer it in this direction towards the storm, which starts causing even more havoc and throwing everything off. And then they just line up all they start piling in the dynamite, all the research for Shiki, and starts blowing up, and calls out to us like, yeah, you're done. Your 20 years of planning undone. We're blowing it up. And I don't know if they actually ever set off the trigger and blow it up, but it's essentially done, and comes down to the final fight between Luffy and Shiki, and Luffy's used as a friggin' Gear 3, takes the lightning bolt into his leg as he uses his what was it, giant stamp or Thor stamp or something like that.
Yeah, it's a giant Thor axe, I think.
Yes.
One of my favorites, again, not canon, but like just visually one of the most awesome like Luffy attacks I've ever seen. It
looks friggin' amazing, and that's it. They defeat him. Because of him being defeated, everything that's floating drifts back into the sea. The people of the village who had wings on their arms or growing feathers in their arms finally learned to fly, and they're all safe. It's all good.
Yeah. We glossed over this, but I really like that, like, the villagers, the woman or whatever, like the little girl's mom, like she apologizes to Nami, or I think it was Nami.
Yeah, she did.
But like for like wanting to like, I said such horrible things and Nami heard me. So I kind of like that came back around.
Yeah, and Luffy's like, oh no, you're kind because you actually feel bad about that.
Right, yeah.
You're still worried about her despite everything you've been through. So you are kind. They successfully make it back, evade the Marines. The Marines capture Shiki, with Sengoku being like, we didn't do a thing. It's the freaking Straw Hats again.
Yep.
We end off with everybody being like, hey, Luffy, you never actually heard the rest of it, because Luffy was still upset at her, like, is pouting around her. It's like, you didn't believe I could beat Shiki. How could you?
Right. He's like, I was hungry. That's why I lost.
Yeah. It's like, oh, wait, Luffy, you didn't hear the rest of the message? And like, Nami's all embarrassed by it. And so there's
it's such a sweet way to end the movie.
Where it does end with her being like, please come save me. And it's like, and I like that, because Luffy, like, even despite all that, he wanted to come save her, which is very Luffy. And got, of course, her believing that they'd save her.
Yeah, like that's the belief in the crew. Like, even, again, it's just, there's so much here that's kind of like just below the surface in terms of the character interactions. It's so good. It feels just so natural.
Yeah, that's pretty much the movie. And the one thing I do want to talk about more specifically is regarding Shiki, because Shiki was always like, how are they going to make Luffy able to beat Shiki when he's positioned as this rival to Roger for so long? And as I watched the movie, I kind of realized how he was it's like, okay, it never said he was a full rival to Roger. He's just around the era of Roger and was beaten by him. And you get the sense that he's maybe not as powerful as the later things we've obviously seen that dwarfs Shiki's power.
It makes me wonder if Shiki not using, like there was no mention of haki at any point in this movie. And I feel like that's intentional.
Yes, I think so. Because Luffy wouldn't have been aware of it yet.
Yeah. Well, he would have. Yeah, and there's no, even as far as I can tell, there's no like allusion to it either. And you would feel like we've seen so many, like, you know, thinking about Marineford and all of sort of like the upper level, the upper echelon of pirates. You know, everybody on Whitebeard's crew, like sort of like the greater awareness that this is a thing. But there's just none of that here. So it really makes me wonder, you know, what would that have turned the tide if Shiki knew how to use or could take advantage of haki? Would that have changed things? But yeah, that might be the kind of like the ceiling that he hit, which is why he had this plan to I'm just gonna make a bunch of animals void out and send them into the ocean.
And it's interesting that he chose the East Blue, because again, it's not said directly, but it's like him talking, like his last words about Roger, a man from the East Blue will beat me. It's that explains why he wanted to target the East Blue, because of the whole Roger aspect. And I like, there's a lot of subtle unsaid things in the movie. Like, how the heck was, you get the sense that Shiki's like this really powerful guy that he was able to escape Impel Down, when no, he's just a tenacious guy with a really useful power for escaping Impel Down, because he cuts off his legs,
off his own legs,
so he doesn't have, so he can actually use his powers. Then you could just imagine him flying away. He's not limited by the calm belt. He just flies out. And they can't do anything.
Yeah, I guess it is really just kind of like the most inconvenient combination of ambition and devil fruit power.
For sure. This movie's fantastic.
It's great. Yeah. Absolutely.
I posited to you last night, this or Baron Amatsuri, which is the better movie. And I think you put it in the best way, is that this is the best One Piece movie.
Yes.
This is very much a One Piece movie. This fits in. It feels like it the best. Baron Amatsuri is absolutely One Piece, but there's a lot of things that make it feel a little different, which is why it's also so great.
Which is why I love it. But if you're pining for some just like good old fashioned, like just the most One Piece, which again that sounds like such faint praise, but we've seen how One Piece a lot of these early movies can feel. We've seen how badly they can screw that up. So that, like,
in the 9 before this, only 2 movies I think succeeded.
Those
Amatsuri and
Dead End Adventure.
Dead End Adventure, yes.
Oh, speaking of, did you notice that the guy for movie 4, like the bartender, he had a cameo in this movie?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, it's that guy.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun little nod.
There's a lot of little nods. You get certain feelings of Dead End Adventure just because of all the pirates meeting up and having the bar scene. You have
yeah, for sure.
the sense of Arlong because of all the Nami stuff. There's a lot of almost culmination, like a lot of callbacks, to just things, but not like being direct callbacks, but just sort of having that sense of them.
Yeah, I think watching this now again in 2024, like it really does feel kind of like it's bringing it all together, right? It feels like, yeah, okay, you can point out elements that like it feels similar to this or that, but like kind of when you look at it holistically, I think it actually like it does a really good job of just like feeling like a pretty typical like manga arc. It is like I said at the start, like it is as close to canon as it possibly could be, even if it isn't.
Yeah, for sure. And I obviously there are parts or points that we can say that maybe not are the strongest of it, ironically enough, but I think this is what a step up, animation wise, story wise, just everything. The best One Piece movie yet.
Yes, I'm glad. Again, like it really does feel like we're in the new era. Like I don't think any. You can have your opinions one way or another about the next like 4 or 5 movies. I think they are all significantly better than most of the first 9.
Easily,
I think even at their worst, I think they're much better. So just kind of having that commitment to quality, and having sort of a like they're no longer yearly. Thank God. So it really lets them hone in on quality.
So we debated on this when we were like, okay, how do we want to discuss this? Do we want to discuss chapter 0 first, or we wanted to talk about the movie first? And I ended up watching the movie first before reading the chapter, just to see how it stands up on its own. And I think we ultimately decided it's probably the best way to do that, because chapter 0 to me is Cameo the Chapter.
Yeah, I actually really like it though, because it's Cameo the Chapter, but like it takes place 20 years ago. So it's like you're not learning a whole lot of new information, but like Oda puts so much time into kind of like, here's kind of what the world was like. We're just like a bunch of little bits and pieces. Yeah, there's just a bunch of cameos. Like, here's what so and so was doing, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of fun things. Like, here's the young Garp, and he's hanging out with Aokiji, and there's Saul.
Oh yeah,
I'm blanking on her name. The wash fruit woman.
Oh, Suru.
Yes, she's there with him, and it's talking about how like Garp's still turning down the promotion and stuff like that. You get to see Sengoku with an afro before he became Fleet Admiral, because he's Admiral Sengoku at this point. And we even get to see Momonga and the other guy that's always smoking. You get to see more of Buggy and Shanks hanging out on Roger's crew with Crocus.
Yeah, Crocus is there. Rayleigh's there, of course. They mentioned Tom.
Yeah, we get the Oro Jackson for Tom. We get to see a bit of Roger. Shiki, young Shiki is how he's all a bit. And it's also really fun. It's like Shiki wants to team up with Roger. It's like, hey, with my ambition and your power, we can make this, we can destroy the world. We can rule the world. And he's like, I have no desire to rule. I just want to be free.
Yeah, which again, hey, every time we see Roger, you're just like, he really is just like Luffy, huh?
And the cool thing is that this is before Roger's Pirate King, so he's not even at his peak abilities yet. This is 3 years before he became Pirate King and was executed. And you see how it is, how much Luffy is in him, where he has just the Oro Jackson, while Shiki has this entire fleet. And I love how even one of the characters you see is that woman with the love crossed out from the movie. Mm-hmm. She's been with there. Shiki this entire time.
Ride or die. I even love, I don't know who this character is in the sunglasses, but like the way that he's just like, well, all right, Roger's decided on this. Like, there's no stopping our captain once he's made a decision.
Yep. Oh gosh, but yeah, get this battle between them, and it's basically defeats him. And this is also the explanation for why Shiki has a wheel stuck in his head.
Yeah, I did not think that needed an explanation. I did not know that had an explanation.
And he's even been with Indigo. He even still has the whole trope of him, like them doing a comedy duo thing. Is like, well, these things happen. I mean, they do compare me to a lion after all. He looks at the mirror. What's this chicken doing here?
Yeah,
that's you.
Oh, it's fun.
But yeah, it was 2 years after this confrontation that Roger conquered the Grand Line. And again, to put it in perspective, look how much characters have grown in that amount of time. You can imagine Roger maybe being equal or somewhat more powerful than Shiki, especially to defeat his entire armada. But imagine just how much more powerful he became.
Yep.
And there's that. And Shiki learns about Roger's capture, does not take it well, and goes directly to Marineford, just slashing everyone down. It's like, no, this is an insult that you're gonna do this, that he's gonna die like this. If you're gonna kill him, let me do it.
I love that confrontation with Garp and Sengoku versus Shiki. Like the way that it kind of parallels what we're seeing in Marineford now. Like it's cool that we're kind of seeing like this kind of happened in the past too, of this place getting attacked.
For sure. You see that this East Blue is apparently a symbol of peace because it's the calmest ocean. And hey, Sengoku getting into it. And it's a wild fight because half of Marineford was destroyed. This poor town cannot catch a break.
Yep.
But they did succeed in capturing him, and then Roger was executed. And we see everybody that was there at the execution. Doflamingo was there. Buggy was there. Mihawk was there. Crocodile was there. Only from behind. Very interesting that. Moria looking... I gotta say, young Moria looks freaking awesome.
He's got that jawline. Like, hey, all right now.
I was like, damn, man.
He let himself go.
And then, of course, we got Shanks and Dragon, and then we end on a shot of, I forget her name, but Roger's lover, Ace's mother.
Oh, Rouge.
Rouge, that's it, Rouge. And then we get all these other ones. It's like, here's the King of Alabasta and his wife, who looks a lot like Vivi. Here's Oimo, the pirates of Enos Lobby, or the giants of Enos Lobby. You see Dogi and Dory and Bragi fighting. Here's Tanjit wanting to be the Stilts champion. Here's Cricket looking for treasure. Here's Rob Lucci with his little bird training to become stronger than
very
Justice.
Similar to the cover story.
Yes. And you even see it's Bluno in the background. You can see his little horns. I think that's probably Jabra next to him.
Yeah, that's definitely Jabra. I love that Lucci still got the pigeon.
Yeah.
Even as a kid.
And then freaking blanking on his name.
Duval.
That's it. It's like, it's the curse of the Age of Pirates because of the way he looks.
It's cursed from birth. It's so sad.
and then here's young Boa Hancock. Again, it doesn't mean anything, but it's so cool to see these characters in these moments. And unfortunately, this chapter is not on Viz, which is very unfortunate. You have to kind of look.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I'm looking at it. So it was included as a little booklet in the second manga box set that includes Skypiea and Water 7.
Oh, okay.
So it is out. It has been officially translated, but it is not on the Shonen Jump app.
That's a bit of a shame.
I feel like it feels like something that would have just slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, and like, where do you place it? That sort of thing. It's a little tricky. Plus, if you throw off the pacing, because it is just an extra thing. But we see Shiki down in level 6, and he's just hearing about all this. 2 years later, he decided to escape, and we see his cut off feet. We see the younger versions of oh gosh, again, too many names.
We got Magellan.
Magellan.
Yeah. And oh god, his assistant. I'm already forgetting. Oh jeez.
We've gone through character after character.
Yeah, character. Yeah.
It's there, but I love that he's still talking about promotions.
Yeah, exactly. Or he's like, sheesh, I want a promotion. I mean, Shiki.
But yeah, we see the escape. We see the explanation of how he's able to get away. And we see the absolute brutal way that Shiki just shoves his stumps into the swords that he always used in order to have his new legs. Good God.
That's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Then we go back to the village where Luffy grew up, and Garp's hanging out on sort of vacation. And we see the mayor of that village. We see young Makino, which she's adorable. Even get to see baby Ace.
Yeah, it's adorable. This was gonna bother me, so I'm sorry. The underwarden Hanya Ball.
Hannibal. Okay, thank you. It was bothering me too, but thank you for that.
Yeah.
We even see Zoro's master is like, I was hoping that the child would be able to think of the dojo, but it's a girl. It's like, oh, don't worry, Kuina will be strong. It's like, yeah, jackass. And then we see Shanks meeting up with Yasopp.
Yeah.
We see Mary designing the Going Mary, wanting to build it someday. We see freaking Belle Mare. We see...
Yeah, the way that it's like, oh, if Shiki ever shows up at the East Blue, I'll pull a bullet in his head.
Yeah, she would.
Oh, man. So good.
We see... Blake on his actual name, but just think of Crap Chef.
Yeah. Oh, no. No, Zeph,
thank you, Zeph.
Oh, this is like a One Piece quiz right now, man.
It really is. Heck, we get to see Wapple's father.
Yeah, who would have thought?
And it's like, oh, I've been worried about him.
Yeah, you know, Apple in this case very far from the tree with Wapple's father.
For sure. We see poor Robin on the run. And we even see definitely forget his name, but the guy got stuck in the chest.
I'm not gonna remember. I don't want to remember that guy's name.
No,
I don't care.
Then of course there's Tom, there's Laboon, there's Crocus going back. We see how Brook is waiting because he's like, I sailed on Roger's ship and searched for them, but there's no sign of the Rumba pirates.
Yep.
And we even see little Hachi meeting up with Shaki as a kid, wanting to visit Rayleigh. And we end off with Shiki trying to propose the same thing to Whitebeard.
Yeah. And it's cool seeing, you know, like, I feel like as far as the main series is concerned, we've built up Whitebeard as kind of the person who was like the most equal to Roger, but like, you know, kind of came up short. Mm-hmm. But like seeing sort of him reflect now, like Roger's gone. So that means like Whitebeard is basically coming in to fill the vacuum. Like this is Whitebeard's era now, because the only person who he couldn't defeat is gone.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just noticed in the background of that shot of Whitebeard and Shiki drinking together, I was first taking notice to Jozu at the point. But if you look to the right and he's half cut off, there's Blackbeard.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, just barely. I see him. There's I see Vista too with the hat.
Oh yeah, Vista is there. I don't. Actually, I think next to Vista on the left there, that's Marco.
That's probably Marco. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's fun.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Like we're the cool thing about having such a massive cast and a massive world of One Piece, you know, with everybody having like, you know, different ages, obviously. So when you flash back 20 years, it's like, well, you know, some of these characters are adults. Some of these characters are children. You know, you got babies like Ace. You know, a lot of these folks, you know, like most of our Straw Hats aren't even born yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got Frankie and Robin as children, you know, and Brooke's already dead, but
Yep. It's a fun chapter. It's not a meaty chapter by any means, but as far as like seeing where these characters were at, even though we all already kind of knew, it's a fun bit of texture.
It's kind of one of my favorite things about One Piece. I not getting way ahead of myself here, but it's one thing I've really loved about where the manga is at currently right now, where we're kind of seeing basically the entire world kind of like, oh, here's this and here's that, and it has been like 6 chapters of various characters from all throughout the world, kind of like just seeing them in panel again is amazing. And I've been just like sending Derek little bits and pieces of screenshots. Like I cannot tell you the context of what this is, but here's a whole bunch of old characters just like, all right, here they are. Yep. They're looking at the news.
They're still there. They're still there. And it's
a good reminder of just how big this world is.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think with that, we've said all we've wanted to say about One Piece Movie 10, Strong World, and Chapter 0. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube or BitNerd with an underscore at the end on Twitter. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job. And I can't wait to get back to the manga next week.
Yeah.
This was a great diversion.
It killed us to have this diversion, for sure, at this time. But I think it helps a lot that it was so good.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, it's a nice little piece of the puzzle, I guess you could say. But yeah, if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode ad-free 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 571 to 575 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
You're as dumb as you look. Nami would never sacrifice herself, you idiot. She joined your crew so she could attack from the inside! Now prepare yourself, Shiki the Golden Lion. We won't lose the same fight twice!